Hello everybody and welcome to the British Pint. My name is Christoph and today we're brewing once more the Theakston Old Peculiar, because last year I used a recipe that was based mainly in the 90s I think, with molasses and maize flakes, and I'm focused on getting the current recipe right today because I recently tasted the beer from cask in the Peak District during my holidays. If you haven't seen that video, have a look at the video where I taste 3 or 4 different beers from the Peak District. That was really nice. And you can also check out the old recipe if you want to have that for comparison. I will link that down in the video description and also up here. And I noticed that in the camera book, Brew Your Own Bridgefield Ale, they actually do have a different recipe from the one that I used last time. And that one is less complicated, no maize, no molasses. And on the website of Theakston, they actually give a lot of detail about the recipe, so you can actually take the ingredients right from there. So I slightly adapted the recipe and I'll be using 5% crystal malt. In this case, that will be the Crisps Crystal Extra Light, which is their normal one. 113 EBC is the value that they give. So I'm going to use that just to get a bit more English flavor. The other crystal malts I have are from Germany or Belgium. So I think this one fits best. And then they use 4% roasted barley. So I have roasted barley here. I'm going to use exactly that. In the camera book they say chocolate malt, but I'm using the same 4% value just because the color doesn't change too much if you do that. You could go down to 3.5% if you want to keep the color of 95 EBC more accurately, but I think it will be fine like that. And then the rest is 91% pale ale malt, and I'm going to use that as 1 kilogram for my 4.5 liters that I usually make. Because the efficiency should be just right to get me short of 16-degree Plato, which is like 1058, 1057, and that should give me the right amount of alcohol in the end. Yeah, I need to adjust my water a bit, so I am going to substitute 30 grams or 3% of the pale malt by acid malt. That brings me down to 5.44 as a pH value, and that should be all right then. And on their website they state that as hopping they use 2 bitter hops, which are Challenger and Target, and the rest should be Fuggles. So I used all the values from the camera book, but I exchanged the varieties. So I use 5 grams of Challenger, 2 grams of Target, and 3 grams of Fuggle for the last 10 minutes. So the other 2 were bittering 90 minutes duration. 3 grams of Fuggles for 10 minutes, and then 3 grams of Fuggles for the dry hop, which will be at the end of fermentation. The yeast is quite tricky. So they state on the website that they use a twin strain, so 2 yeast strains, which give a bit of cherry and other fruit flavors. I don't have any yeast at hand that gives cherry flavor, and I'm actually not sure what varieties there are. I know that some Brettanomyces strains give cherry, but that's definitely not what they want. They're definitely using normal yeast. I'm going to go with 2 yeasts, trying to get some mixture thing, because I have here the Fuggle strain, Imperial Yeast A09, and the Scottish Ale yeast, which is the Y yeast 1728. So I'm going to blend these two 50-50, try to get the pitch rate right with the liquid sediment that I have in the fridge. This will be quite a challenge to get right, but we'll see. And then just chuck that in. It's extremely important that both your yeast strains have the same vitality, otherwise one goes off and the other one doesn't. So I'm going to prepare them both the same way, probably together in 1 cup. I was thinking about using a dry yeast for one of the 2, but then that one would be really vital and the other one wouldn't be, and I don't want to have that. If you wanted to use other yeasts, for example, I used in the past the Belgian Ale, White Labs 550. That one is very neutral and more spicy phenolic, so that is not a good fit for what Theakston actually gives. That was a recommendation from the internet I got as a substitute for typical Yorkshire strains. Apparently that's not what we want here. You could go for the White Labs 500, which is a Belgian ale, I forgot the name now, but that one gives very fruity notes like plum. It would be not cherry, but at least some fruit notes. I think attenuation shouldn't be too high for either strain, so using 2 strains that are weakly attenuating is probably the best way to go forward, from what I understand. I don't fully trust the values that they give in the camera book, but they say the final gravity is 1015, so almost 4%, 4-degree Plato, which is, no, 4% you say the final gravity. It doesn't matter. The important part is it's really high, and I never achieved anything like that. I think I got to 3% once, and so 1012, that's a lot. I will try to get as much residual body in there as I can. I'm going to mash in a bit higher. I have mashed it in behind me already. This is sitting at 68 degrees now. I'm trying to hold the temperature throughout and get a bit more body into the beer. I've no idea how this is done. When I tried it and tasted it, it was quite dry and a pronounced bitterness, but I think this is mainly because of roasted barley and of the target hop in the bittering. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about the flavor, except for that it was a really amazingly tasting beer and much better than the bottles that I've tried some years ago. Yeah, so I'll see how this goes. I will do the standard procedure: 4 liters of mash liquor, 3 liters of sparge liquor, mash for continuous temperature for 1 hour, get everything sparged, then do the hop boil with the values that I already said. I use cones for Target and Fuggles, just in case you want to know. Challenger I have as pellets. I always prefer cones if I have them. It gives usually much more flavor. I have heard of people having orange flavor introduced by cone Fuggle that was very fresh. I never had that though. So we'll see. And then maybe I will tell you a bit more about how everything went down during the pitching. So I'll see you later. Okay guys, so here we are at the end of the brew day. I got the amount I wanted, I got the gravity I wanted, 15 degree bricks, and this is right well to the edge where I wanted to have the fill level. I already added the yeast, so I pitched. I had to make a difficult choice because my Scottish ale yeast didn't smell very nice anymore. It was very intensely, I think, acetaldehyde, the one that smells like plaster. So that was definitely not going to be a yeast I was going to use again. I mixed now half Fuller's yeast and half the West Yorkshire yeast, because I noticed that West Yorkshire yeast is one of the few that has stone fruit as an ester character. And if you wanted to go for cherry, the two that I could find were White Labs 500, as I mentioned at the beginning, plum and cherry, and then White Labs 530 is also supposed to have plum and cherry. So these are basically the three only yeasts that would give flavors as Theakston describes. Now, I put them both in a tea with hot malt extract in a teacup, and it started getting active very quickly within an hour, so that's a good sign. But of course, I do not know whether both yeasts are as healthy or whether it was just one waking up early and the other one still lagging behind. It would probably have been better to do that separately, check whether both of them start bubbling, and then pitch them. And if one of them is slower, you could either wait if you haven't brewed your beer already, or you could adjust the amount, so you could change the pitching rates if you think that one is more sluggish, less vital, and all these things. But that's maybe something for next time. This time I just want to check whether this works at all, and I think that would be all then, and the next video will then show you the tasting, which will probably be in 8 weeks from now. I don't think I will let this mature for longer than other beers, even though this style is an oat ale. More precisely, this used to be called a Burton ale. Aged, sweet, strongly hopped, and black. That used to be the properties of Burton ales. But about 200 years ago, so they have really fallen out of fashion. But I like the style very much, and it's the bittersweet thing that really gets me, together with the roastiness in some cases. Yeah, so we'll see how this turns out, and then see you in the next video where we taste it. Bye bye.